Hello and welcome to Football 301. I'm your host, Nate Tice. Another great show for you today because we got another deep dive into an NFL division. Today, it's the AFC East. We did the NFC East earlier this week. On to the AFC, to the junior circuit. That only works for baseball, where we're using it for the NFL as well. And to help me do that, it's my guy, Matt Harmon from Reception Perception, from Yahoo, from who is going to join me in Vegas this weekend, which I'll get to in a sec, but very excited to see you, Matt. How you doing? Ready to talk some AFC East?
I am. You were on the fantasy show with me yesterday talking about offenses that, might disappoint. So I feel, we literally just talked to each other and we talked about two of these teams that we're going to break down today. So and as I said on that show, that was like the appetizer. I'm really excited to kind of dive deeper into not just those two teams, this entire division. I'm curious to see what you thought about some of these teams, because I kind of came away thinking like this division could be, outside of one team, a little bit rough this year.
And even that team might have a rough unit we'll probably talk about. So that I know it is going to be an interesting division. Yeah, we'll call it a companion piece. What we did yesterday, which spoilers, was about busts, potential busts, and two of the teams that we're talking about today are involved. So but it's a companion piece to work together, fantasy forecast, and then here at Football 301. I hinted, though, well, speaking of fantasy, and I already hinted to this, remember, the Football 301 crew is going to be in Sin City. That's Las Vegas. That's where I live. This weekend for a Yahoo Fantasy Kickoff Weekend on Friday, August 22nd. That's 2 days from now from when we record this. And Saturday, August 23rd at the Venetian Resort here in Las Vegas on the Strip from 5 to 7 p.m. on both nights, Friday and Saturday. You can catch me, Matt over there, Mr. Four Verts, Charles McDonald, and the rest of the Yahoo Fantasy crew at the Yahoo Sportsbook inside the Venetian. We're going to have a meet and greet, a fantasy Q&A, and on Saturday, we'll share our 10 biggest pieces of draft advice before the season starts. You won't want to miss it. Again, that's Friday, August 22nd, Saturday, August 23rd at 5 p.m. Yahoo Sportsbook inside the Venetian. Also, most importantly, it's free. So come on by and talk some ball with me, Matt, Charles, all the other guys here at Fantasy. You're going to do a lot of football talk. Should be a lot of fun. Probably some impromptu Q&As as I have a tequila and soda. So tequila and soda, if you guys, if anyone's curious, that's what I go for, tequila and soda. I've had to deal with a gluten allergy that has really ruined my beer drinking over the last couple of years. Helped me lose weight though, so silver linings for my lack of beer drinking. But did you say same? Are you
same?
You're you're a little bit of everything, aren't you?
I am a little bit of everything, but I have learned in these work event scenarios, the tequila soda, especially because, dude, I mean, I've been traveling so much this year that the tequila soda is the best way to go for these. Like, listen, you're going to be there for a few hours. You're not trying. Number one, you're not trying to get hammered. Number two, you're not trying to feel like garbage. So if you can just pace yourself with it's a little bit of alcohol, it's a little bit of hydration. It's the correct way to go. So yeah, I mean, if I'm never gonna, like, if I'm gonna go to a restaurant, I'm never ordering a tequila soda like a lunatic at dinner or something. But if it's a standing event, I'm gonna be networking around a little bit. I think that's the right way to go. Definitely, no, you can't do at this point in life. Can't do beer. Okay, can't do it. Look, I love a beer, but I mean, be bloated and like not trying to burp in people's face and something like that. That's not the way to do it. That's not professional.
Yeah, and also I want to eat food, and then it's like I can't have beers before I eat, all that stuff too. No, tequila soda's been a nice little life hack in my old age, and wine, of course. I'm 36 now. This is what I go for.
But you can't be sipping wine at one of these events either. That's not the right vibe.
Sportsbook bar? No.
Yeah, no.
I'm not gonna be sipping wine. I can't be that guy. It's like the reviewer in Always Sunny going to Patty's Pub and getting a little glass of white wine. That's exactly what I want to do.
Exactly.
Let's jump into the AFC East. Very fun division. Got actually a division that's been competitive, or at least a division that's drawn a lot of interest the last few years. We've had some teams kind of come and go ever since the post-Belichick AFC East, because I think you have to define those eras. Into now it's become the Bills division. We've had the Aaron Rodgers Jets come and go quickly. We had questions about the Dolphins and where they're going to go, which should be fun to talk about. And then, we got the interesting other teams that we got in this division, New England Patriots, which should be a lot of fun. They're interesting quarterback. But let's start with the Buffalo Bills, the kings of this division recently. 13-4 last year, made the Final Four before bowing out to the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. Returned a lot of players, returned a lot of coaches, including their head coach, Sean McDermott, returned the reigning MVP, Josh Allen. Fun team. Should be really fun to talk about. But we're going to start on the offense. An offense that I believe we were unanimously as a top 2 unit this year. And I also thought you brought up a great point on that companion piece show on the Fantasy Forecast, where you mentioned how this was pretty much a consensus number 1, number 2, number 3 type offense, even from, would you use it, wisdom of the crowd sources. But then no one in fantasy really stood out. It was like the most underdrafted fantasy guys, because that's what this unit is. It's Josh Allen and a bunch of solid to good around him. And it really works for them. But this Bills offense, though, Matt, what are you focusing on? Pass catchers, how do you think they're going to sort out? And just really what you think of maybe this next step for the Bills offense is going to be.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I was hesitant to reference the spreadsheet that I created for that show yesterday, because I thought you might have like PTSD from it at this point. Yeah, it was
I'm
it's
using
really
that,
disgusting
by the way.
stuff.
You should sell for $1. I'm sure you can make like $15, but I'd be one of those buyers.
You're right. I need more content out there. That's for sure. You get it for free, buddy. But no, I mean, to put the point on this was this team, again, is widely projected 1 or 2 by everybody in the sources I looked at, in our show here as well. This is the first or second offense. Everybody agrees on that. And yet they were 30th in terms of like how high their skill position players are going in fantasy. So a funny, massive gap there. And I think that really, like, I didn't want to bring it up, but I'm glad you did, because I think it's super instructive to how this offense is, where, like, we know who James Cook is. After that, it's kind of wide open, especially because the best and most consistent pass catcher that they have is definitely Khalil Shakir. They rewarded him with a contract extension at the combine this year, so very early on. He's a really good slot, yards after catch, layup target, the type of guy that any team would love to have in their receiver room, especially this quarterback who in his early parts of his career always wanted to, go for the home run, and they wanted to, I think, incentivize, hey, like, take some layups, Josh, and especially because this guy, if you give him the layups, he's going to get you, he's not just going to get what you throw him, he's going to get you, 5, 6, 7, 8 more yards after the catch. So he's the most consistent guy. He's dealing with a high ankle sprain, and he did come back from a high ankle sprain really quickly last year, which was surprising, because usually guys get high ankle sprains and they struggle throughout the course of the year. He came back and was kind of just his normal self, but you never know if that's going to happen again this year. And the rest of the room is kind of a bit of a mismatch group here. And so I don't really know how this pass catching room sorts out. I'm really excited to kind of talk it out here, because part of me thinks like maybe they do need a leap from somebody in this room to be better than we're kind of projecting for them to be that great offense again. But then again, they did it without that last year, and they have one of the 2-3 best quarterbacks in the world. So maybe that doesn't need to happen.
That's what's confusing about them in a way. Like I looked at the receiver room and I was like, oh man, I thought I'd feel a little better about everybody. And then just but it works for them. I did like the Palmer signing, which I have Joshua Palmer, which we've talked about a few times this offseason. And not saying like, oh my God, this guy's going to be a sudden Pro Bowl, or why did the Chargers let him go? More just like he fits what the Bills want to do, which is, the receivers have to do some dirty work, how they kind of just do things. They run a lot of flats and screens. They run the ball a lot, but they require them kind of just do a lot. A lot of guys line up in the slot and outside. A lot of guys have to have the ball in their hands and be a blocker. So it's just more football playerness. And I think actually Palmer has that. And I think that's why he'll be a nice fit. It's just, where's the juice coming from? And you mentioned Khalil Shakir kind of being that steady Eddie juice guy. Dalton Kincaid's solid with the ball in his hands, but he's not like, oh my God, crazy Travis Kelce, George Kittle running over guys, running past guys. It's just more, he's solid. Keon Coleman seems to have an improved preseason, but just with him too. Remember pre-draft discussions we've had about him, and maybe even post-draft early on, where we said maybe Keon Coleman could be a power slot as well. So that's another guy that maybe has some inside-outside versatility, as well as being a scrappy blocker and physical and all that. So they have like a lot of the sameness. Like Palmer and Coleman are very samey to me in some ways. But this offense, every defense is terrified of Josh Allen hitting them over the top. And I would prefer if this offense maybe had a guy that truly takes the top off, but they've kind of gone like, well, maybe we just would live on singles and doubles. And Josh Allen is the guy that, like, once he does this extended play, Professor Chaos, Josh Allen-ness, that creates the explosives through the air. So it's just one of these I've just really been marinating on. That's why it's fun to talk it out, even with you. It's just because it's not perfect. It's not how I would build a receiver room, but they can make it work because they're a run-first team now, or at least a balanced team, run and pass. Not as much RPOs outside those flats and bubbles, which to me, I call those package plays as opposed to RPOs. RPOs to me are throws down the field. Package plays are bubbles, flats, screens, spokes, those types of plays behind the line of scrimmage, old school RPOs. They do those as opposed to true ones down the field. So it works. The run game, though, too, is good. And I'm very confident. This is going to be I could really the most confident thing I could say is that Josh Allen's going to be good and the run game's going to be good, because last year was 7th in rushing suplex. Normally, including Josh Allen and on running back runs, is the best rushing suplex rate they've had since Josh Allen took over as a full-time starter. First time they've ever had a positive EPA on running back runs since Josh Allen became a starter. Highest success rate they've had since Josh Allen became a starter. And they have the same O-line, same running back, same Josh Allen, same coordinator, same O-line coach. I'm setting my clock to that. I can guarantee that this is a top 10 running unit. James Cook is being really good between the tackles on top of his explosiveness. And that's been a nice, pleasant development of his career. On top of having some really fun backups. Ray Davis is a good bruiser. Ty Johnson's fun. So again, it's just a unique offense. And I just have been trying, it works. I don't see them being drop off, even if there's maybe a few things that are going to leave me wanting more. They make it work for them. So the last little thing I had too, is maybe a little quirk, is last year, the Bills started on average at their own 33.4 yard line. And I was like, that's a really high number. And I know kickoffs are going to, the change of kickoffs is going to change that a little bit. That seemed just really high. It was the highest last year. It's the second highest average starting field position by any NFL offense since 2011. So they got some really good field position too, and they benefited from that. But it was just an interesting quirk. I was like, is that going to drop off, make it a little harder? Probably won't affect them too much. I just thought it was an interesting thing I had to throw in there. But I have to ask you, do you have any opinion on Dawson Knox? I know you're more receivers, you don't chart tight ends, but do you have any opinion on Dawson Knox? Because this team has now drafted a tight end in the first round, paid another tight end fairly highly. Neither of them can block in line. And then so they run jumbo with a 6 offensive linemen at a higher rate than anybody, one of the highest rates that you can find. And they just have these 2 tight ends that are kind of samey. So do you have any opinion on Dawson Knox or Dalton Kincaid's next step?
Well, it's funny, actually. I remember after they took Dalton Kincaid, Charles and I did a reaction podcast in the pre-Nate days, because this was when you weren't here yet with us. Pre-Nate
I was just
days.
A friend of the show.
Friend of the show. Yeah, that's all. Sure. Weren't doing anything else, but so I remember doing this podcast with Charles, and we were both kind of saying at the time, it is a little weird. Number one, their names are too similar. Dawson, Dalton, too close there. That was actually tough to say in that moment. But also, Charles was like, this isn't a situation where they've got one, because Kincaid was obviously a guy that they were, I think at times Brandon Beane has kind of galaxy brained this offense just a little bit. I think Brandon Beane's a really good GM, and I don't want to say too much negative about him, but at times, and he's clearly maybe a little sensitive about the wide receiver obsession with the fan base, right? Based on radio interviews this offseason. But there was a moment where they're like, all right, we're going to get Dalton Kincaid and he's going to be a slot receiver. And we got to get a pass catching running back. Well, we didn't get JD McKissick, so we're going to get James Cook. And we're going to bring in, it's like, why don't you just get a real receiver, go get a premium receiver other than the guys. Look what happened. You got Stephon Diggs. That was a pretty awesome offense there for a while, consistently competitive. You were great. And it really helped your quarterback grow up. Now, I think, again, the quarterback is at a point now where he doesn't need a number one receiver. He can elevate the talent around him. But still, I think he kind of galaxy brained this offense a little bit, specifically with the tight end stuff. Because, again, Charles's point was, okay, well, Dalton Kincaid, you're pitching him as this, like, he's our slot receiver, but your other tight end isn't this hefty inline guy. You know, I know everybody always comes back to like Gronk and Hernandez with the Patriots. This is not that. This is like two Aaron Hernandezes, except Dalton Kincaid I think he's a good receiver in that, like, he's got, you know, pretty good hands, like good skills and movement and stuff like that, but he's not like a special athlete. And this is always my problem when this is where we've been talking a lot, I feel like lately, Nate, about like the troubles with the tight end. And with Kincaid, it's just like, okay, well, he's your slot receiver. Congratulations. Now you have the biggest, slowest slot receiver in the league. And it did not become this, like, it became a real big, easy personnel tell, which is why I think they've also now just not really been able to get Kincaid as the only tight end on the field when they go to 11 personnel. So he's become this kind of stuck in the middle player. So
yeah.
It's a weird, like, usually we're all in on these like 12 personnel teams that can create mismatches and stuff like that. They've not been able to do it. And I think it's because the tight ends are like, there's a little bit too much sameness, a little bit too much overlap between the two guys.
The you know, the matchup issues that tight ends in theory are supposed to create is, we don't know if they're going to be run heavy or pass heavy as a defender. I don't know what they're leaning into here. Every formation, every personnel grouping, every situation has a tell or tendency of some sort. NFL offenses and defenses, what they try to do is make it like a rock, paper, scissors. All right, they have three choices here, and they kind of get to each of them at an equal amount rate. They kind of lean into this one a little bit, but I got to hedge and kind of play them all equally. All right, I know Dalton Kincaid is in line as a tight end. They're not running that way. You know, they're not running with him at the point of attack. So you're already okay, boom, as a defender, I go, okay, so I can focus on this way. Okay, and then the one run that they do is a read play. So I know that these are two things. So now we're just making it 50-50. All right, now you're already putting the offense at a disadvantage. It helps when you have good scheme and the offensive line that's really good. Remember the stat, I looked this up, but they only had one offensive line injury all of last year, or a starter only missed one game all of last year. Spencer Brown missed one game of their starting offensive line, and the year before they had the healthiest offensive line. Hopefully I'm not jinxing it, but they have really found some good chemistry there. I just had to ask because they run jumbo. So jumbo is a 6 offensive lineman. 14.4% of their plays last year. So that means you're taking a tight end off the field and putting an offensive lineman on the field. And this is a team that paid a tight end.
Why would that be?
Is it because neither of their tight ends can block? And then this was the funny thing too. They had another tight end that could block, Quentin Morris, who's now with the Jags. And now they're like, okay, well, we just do jumbo anyway. So do we need a block? I don't know. It's just funny how they've kind of gotten to this point. Yeah. And I think Joe Brady has leaned into this. He's a Sean Payton guy by trade. 3 of the top 5 since 2019. This was the 6th highest rate of jumbo by a team. The Bills last year. But 3 of the top 5 teams were Saints teams with Sean Payton. He's always been a jumbo offensive line guy, or a jumbo tight end guy. But I just think that's, I don't know, it's just a funny team building thing of this Bills organization that I just try and put my finger on, because Kincaid's not going anywhere. Bean's going to protect that pick.
No.
So then now you're just always creating new problems to solve with the other personnel guys. So it's interesting.
And so is Coleman too.
And they have.
It's funny that they've been this like obsessed with the personnel, like okay, again, we're gonna get a tight end as a slot receiver. We got to get a pass catch. We got to get a back that's kind of useful out of the backfield. And then again, Coleman, the guy that I thought would really make sense as kind of a big jumbo slot receiver among receivers that ran 200 routes last year. He was second fewest in terms of percentage of snaps in the slot. So like.
Is all
completely definitely did not watch my YouTube video from last year on Keon Coleman and why I thought he would. Brandon Beane did not check that one out. It's just to me, like, if he's going to stay as the X receiver, he's always going to be a volatile guy because of his skill set, right? Like that just is what he is, because he's never going to be a full field separator. Now, I do think he runs slant routes really well, and he can actually get off the line of scrimmage pretty quickly. And I think he's good with the ball in his hands. Another reason that I'm like, make it easier to get the football in his hands, like move him around the formation a little bit, which is why I am interested in the Palmer signing. I'll be honest about Palmer. Like I remember charting him in his first season, and I did not like him, and I did not think he was going to make my list to chart this year, but I did go ahead and take a look at him, and I think he is some people think he's like this great separator. I don't. I think he is, but really good on these like deep in breaking routes, posts and digs. So I think he can play all three positions, which is useful in this receiver room. So
that's what's useful.
I'm not. Yeah. If I'm not saying Coleman needs to become a full-time slot. Khalil Shakir is their best player. He should. And which again is funny. Like, let's make the tight end a slot receiver. Oh, he's not even better than your actual slot receiver.
They have 7 slot guys.
I'm not saying that. Right. Like Elijah Moore is an interesting player. Yes. So I know we got to get moving
Curtis
here, but
I don't think roster too, right?
For now, I don't think he's going to make the team.
So
but I mean, I'm not saying that Coleman needs to become a 50% slot player, but if we can get him closer to like 35, maybe 40, I think that really would unlock him. And I do kind of think, again, it's a great team. They were a great offense last year. They should be a great offense this year. But I think to get to another level, they've got to unlock somebody here. It's probably got to be Palmer, Coleman, or Kincaid. I think I can use Palmer to be a productive player and also do some things that unlock Coleman, which would help a little bit.
Yeah, and I think that's why I'm interested in it too. Yeah, we feel really good about the offense, but we have a lot of questions, and it's more just curiosity things. So I think that when you have Josh Allen, you can just experiment with whatever you want, though. That's what helps when you have a guy like that. Absolute just phenom at quarterback. All right, now defense. Defense is interesting to me. It fell apart in the back half of last year. I respect this coaching staff a ton. Sean McDermott and Bobby Babbage. Son of Bob Babbage, but Bobby Babbage in this defense, they make a lot of salad out of a lot of and they've done that for a few years now, whether it's been injuries, it's guys not hitting, Kyrie became a nothing burger. That's another thing too about what Brandon Beane does. As far as like, sometimes I'm like, do you know your personnel? Do you know your coaching staff? Because they've become like a run first team. They kind of gone with non-blocking tight end and a pass catching running back, and they've made it work. On defense, they keep investing in first round corners. And it's like your coaching staff made some other guys like 6 rounders into like really good starters. Like maybe you don't have to invest in that because you have an edge. I don't know. Just me as an outsider, just checking out your team and your team makeup. But from weeks 10 onwards last year, they were 31st in EPA per play, 31st in EPA per pass, 31st in passing success rate. Their DVOA, their weighted DVOA was a little bit higher because they did play some good offenses, but it is just this team kind of fell apart with some injuries, weren't able to cover a lot. Their safeties, when Taylor Rapp got hurt, they truly fell off into one of the worst passing defenses. But having said that, they still have a lot of interesting players. So when you look at this defense, this Bills defense, Matt, do you think it's going to hinder them, maybe making it that next step, making it to the Super Bowl, or are you high on them? Where's your stance on this defense?
I did have them ranked way too high when we did top 10 defenses, and a lot of that was
our first show back.
Respect. Yeah, correct. Well, I mean, no, for your first show back, not my first show back. So I don't know what my excuse was. So yeah, I wasn't even on the show, like whatever, who cares. I strike it from the record, but it was a lot of that is like respect to Sean McDermott, who I think is really good at this, and like you mentioned, Babbage I think was really good at this too. They do have some good players. Like I'm interested in Cole Bishop in year 2. I generally like Ed Oliver. Maybe didn't hit like the ceiling of what they wanted him to be, but I think they have a lot of guys like that are good players. Greg Rousseau, another guy that they extended this year that I think is a really, really good starter out there on the defensive line. I think this year hinges a lot on kind of the aging guys. Like, can they hang on? Can they be difference makers? They signed Joey Bosa, right? Obviously, Matt Milano is getting up there at this point. He's still kicking around. They bring back Tre'Davious White, and it's just like you're walking right into a starting job. And like Tre'Davious White has been cooked with like the last few teams he's been with. So these type of players, I think, are the real pivot points for this defense, because it's felt like for a while they need, a finisher. They need somebody to come in there and close these games out. I still don't think they have it. And I am a little concerned with how much they're relying on some of those older guys, but I do think they're well coached, and that's ultimately why I overranked them, as I probably emphasized the coaching staff a little too much.
It's somewhere in between. Like they're not a top 10 unit, but not those stats I just listed off, not the second worst unit in the NFL. Yeah. Like somewhere in between that. And honestly, they just need this unit to be top half. and they can make a run. They just need this unit to be top 16, really good game plan wise, because I think their offense, and they have the quarterback and the offensive structure to make a run. So it really is. You just mentioned like these kind of pivot players, like they're huge on just being healthy, just being on the field. I like the kind of the vets that they signed this offseason along the defensive line. I totally understand what they're going for. Joey Bosa, Larry Ogunjobi, Michael Hoyt. These guys, they are trying. The Bills defense under McDermott has always rotated the front, keep them fresh. We go eight deep, or 2 deep, I should say, but eight players deep, 9 players deep, and we rotate. We're fresh in the fourth quarter. We're fresh throughout the season, and it overwhelms a lot of teams in the fourth quarter, especially when they're trying to keep up with Josh Allen. So it's like one of these things where I see the vision. Like Bosa's still got juice. It's just that he's going to miss 4 games, like he always does.
Right.
Hoyt's serving suspension. Ogunjobi's serving suspension, but like Ogunjobi, great on the interior, like good interior player. I like this. Daquan Jones on the interior, good. They're giving themselves in a weird way where I'm not betting on any of these guys to play all 17 games. In a way, they can cover their asses to play 17 games, because they have guys, okay, you're suspended, but you can play this time. You're featured in this time, and then you can be a backup. Oh, you're probably going to get hurt sometime this year, but at least we got other guys to throw at the problem. They realize that that's a big part of their defensive structure, so they threw a lot of bodies at it. TJ Sanders, they drafted in the second round. I think he's had a good preseason, too. Landon Jackson, they got in the third round. I think that's fair price for where they got him. He could be a nice, solid defensive end. But then they got Deion Walker, who is hard to miss. He's probably 370 pounds. He's like 6'7" at D tackle. And again, he doesn't have to come in and be a starter. Like this is a guy that had top 20 rankings, first round grades at one point, and he kind of fell off during the season. They bought him at the drafted him at the perfect spot in the 4th round. He can rotate. Like he doesn't have to play 60 snaps, 50 snaps. Okay, we can just drop him in for 15 snaps, a dozen snaps, see how he does, get his conditioning right, make sure he's worth playing. I don't know. They just gave themselves a nice little floor lifters, even if I think the ceiling is still kind of capped on the defense. Milano's great when he's healthy, but he just keeps battling injuries. Bernard and Dorian Williams have been nice players at linebacker. I'm going to talk about Christian Benford in a sec. I keep hinting at him, but spoilers. But that's the thing is their DB room, one injury, they're dead. And that's what scares me. It scares me so much. Hairston, their first round pick's already hurt, but I'm saying if they get one more, because last year when Rapp went down, they fell apart. Bishop, just the backup safeties are scary. And they're still trying to sort out, Bishop and his role and everything. And then the outside corner, you mentioned Tre'Davious White. It's like if he's done or Hairston can't go, oh boy. Teron Johnson is a great player. This is a Bills defense that bases out a nickel with 5 DBs. Great player, but he's slot only. He's there. That's his spot. So it's fragile. And it's a coaching staff that does the best when they do have injuries, but it's just like, man, maybe one more DB in there just to help out. But I don't know. Overall, this is a good team. I don't think anyone's like their over-unders at 12.5, and we'll pick that in a sec. And I'm not shocked at that number, because I think the defense will be good enough, even if I don't have them in my top 10. But just a little scary. Just had to mention that. Breakout player on this vet-laden team. Who do you got for the Bills?
Definitely tough to pick a breakout player from this team. I went with Osiris Torrance just because I think like he could take a step
good
from
player.
Good starter to like you're noticing this guy like when they play, because I think like he's an awesome run blocker. The pass pro could definitely be tightened up a little bit, but like again, when like you're watching this Bills team on film, I already feel like I notice him maybe in a good way. Notice him in like 3 times a game. Could he be somebody that goes to like we're getting closer to 7, 8, 9 times a game? You're like, oh man, he just cracked open like a wide hole. And I really like this run game. I think James Cook has really turned into a fun running back that you wouldn't expect to be good on these like gap runs that they master with, but at the same time, like, man, when they blow open a hole, he is going to take full advantage of it. And Ray Davis is an awesome back too. Ray Davis is a guy that like on any other team, I would be so jacked up about Ray Davis to, and if Cook ever misses time, we already saw it last year. He had one game where he touched the ball 23 times and went over 150 yards from scrimmage. So like, I think this run game is going to be really good. And I think if the offensive line, like Torrance is somebody he's a big hulking presence on the interior, again, just becomes one of those offensive linemen that like, you're noticing that dude. Like he really had like that breakout season. I could see that.
No, I love that. I liked him coming out. I liked the pick when they made it because that has been kind of their offensive shift to be more run heavy and more bruiserish. That's why, again, the Cook and the Dalton Kincaid picks are still funny because they've done so many other nice things. Like their offensive line kicks ass. They run 2 run plays really well, or 3 really. They pull their tackles. They run inside zone. And Cook, you just mentioned it. Cook and Davis are so good at cutting against those zone runs. So yeah, I like Torrance. Like, shoot, I could say Spencer Brown as a breakout player, but I think he broke out last year. He's turned from
I think that was his year.
A week. Yeah, he's good now. Legitimately just good to Pro Bowl, that kind of caliber player, which good for him. I mean, I thought he had no shot because he was so skinny, and he's really just turned into a fine player. So yeah, that whole right side, that whole line's gonna be fun. I went with this because I can never help myself. I always give my presents to my wife like 3 days before Christmas and her birthday. I can never hold a secret. I went with Christian Benford, the corner. Where's number 47? Usually when I see a corner wearing number 47, I am targeting him if I were a quarterback 30 times. I'm doing the Aaron Rodgers bit. What number do you wear? I'm going right after you. Christian Benford has turned into one of the better, easily a top 10 corner in the NFL, probably higher than that. Little stat, and I know defensive coverage stats are a little wonky, a little volatile, but last year, Benford only allowed 0.6 yards per snap as the closest defender in coverage. That's second in the NFL among outside corners, only behind Defensive Player of the Year, Patrick Surtain II.
Patrick Surtain.
So a very, very good number to be rank high in. Bills play more zone coverage. That's McDermott's shtick. Was more cover 2 last year, but he's always been a quarters guy that helps the corners out a little bit. But Benford is a good player, especially for a day 3 corner to turn into a Pro Bowl caliber guy. That gets me to my original point with Bean going like, hey, your guys can coach them up. So, invest in some other spots because I think they'll figure out these guys. But yeah, Benford, really good player. Probably already broke out last year, but just more national name recognition. This team's got a lot of good players. Over under win total. It's at 12.5. One of the highest, if not the highest, I think, in the league. What you going to go with? Over under 12.5 wins for the Bills.
I do have some minor questions about the offense and like some maybe not minor, but questions on the defense for sure. Yeah. I'm still going to go over here on 12.5, and you're going to be able to tell why when I talk about the rest of the division. I think that even if I have some questions overall about the Bills, I feel pretty good about what they can do inside the division and win a lot of games.
Producer Stone just threw in a note. It is the highest in the NFL at 12.5. I'm also going over, and just with you with the division, the AFC is very top heavy. But there's some crap in it. And also just, their division, like you said, there's 6 games against, a couple feisty teams, but I think the Bills are just the class of the division and the class of the conference and the NFL. Like this is one of the legit contender teams. I brought up those defensive questions because it might seem hard on it and harsh on it, but we're making a run to the Super Bowl. So like, I'm going to point out and find anything that can hinder that. And that's why I just want to talk about this, but I'm going over as well, over 12.5 wins. Cause I think same record as last year. I think they're a 13-win team, somewhere around there. We are going to take our first break and then we'll come back with our deep dives on a few more AFC East teams. See you guys in a sec. We are back and it's time to preview what I think truly, and I'm not just saying this, one of the most interesting teams to me in the entire NFL, because it's just what are you? And that is the Miami Dolphins, man. We're going to start same head coach, same quarterback, same a lot of things, not offensive line, but same a lot of things on this team. And this can be an interesting discussion to figure out what exactly are the Miami Dolphins. We're going to start with their offense, an offense that a couple of years ago had me rethinking a lot. I was starting to try to come up with a nickname for this offense because I was like, oh man, like the blur offense, the greatest show on turf. Like I was just trying to figure it out. And it just ever since then, there's been a little bad taste in the mouth over time. Even if there's been flashes and stretches of good stuff, injuries have hit this team, inconsistent run game has hit this team. Just one thing after another that it just hasn't let them take that next step. It's really more just been step back. So when you look at this Dolphins team, look at this offense, what are you focusing on, Matt? I'm sure there's quite a few things.
Oh my God, so many things.
The stats are crazy. If you look at old numbers to the last year's numbers, it's something.
Yeah,
it's something.
It's something. And again, we kind of got the appetizer on this discussion on the fantasy forecast yesterday between you and I, and like, just to me, it comes down to like, what's your stance on where Tyreek Hill is at this point in his NFL career? And I don't have a very good feeling about that. First of all, like, there's, the off the field kind of vibes, and generally, like, I mean, the guy quits, like, basically wants to quit the team in week 18, pulls himself out of the game, says, I'm out of here, I'm done. Like, in the middle of a question, like an unrelated question from a reporter, just says, like, I'm out of here. There's trade rumors. I thought he'd be traded in the offseason, but then again, you also think, like, who wants to trade for this guy? Apparently nobody's that desperate. And, there's legal things, there's his wrist injury. It's just like there's a lot going on right now with the Tyreek Hill thing. Then you actually watch him play last year. He was one of the players I was most interested to chart in the offseason, because it's one thing to talk about all these and like declining efficiency metrics and all that stuff, because we know that stuff, or we should know, and not enough people recognize it, but we should recognize that any sort of good, even the good wide receiver stats, are all impacted by the environment. And it's like, we know, right, yes, all these Miami guys saw their efficiency, Jalen Waddle included, dip back last year. How much of that is because they play with a backup quarterback, the offense is in decline, all those things? I mean, this is why I do what I do with reception perception, is to try to isolate the player from surrounding variables. So you go back and look at Tyreek Hill last year. To be clear, this is one of the players that from his rookie season to 2023, just straight up a really good player all throughout. I actually, even when he was a gadget based player in his first season with the Chiefs, is like, oh, this guy actually runs real routes. Like, and is a real, he could be a real.
I was with the Raiders at that time where I was like, who the heck is this guy?
Yeah, like, he's not Cordero Patterson or Tavon Austin. Like, those are the comparisons he got at the time. It's like, no, actually, you watch him when he does, in the micro little sample that he does run real routes, he really does win on his routes. He can be a real receiver. Obviously, we know he went on and did that. Between 2018 to 2023, he's fallen anywhere between 75.7 and 77.4% success rate versus man. He has fallen below 80% success rate versus press just once in that span. From 2021 to 2023, he was like one of the best zone beaters every single season in RP. Last year, he dips down to 67.3% against man, which is a 44th percentile mark. It's not like horrible, but it's a pretty drastic decline from being one of the best players in the league. He dips elsewhere across the board against all the other metrics that, like, against success rate versus coverage. So typically with receiver decline, I always say this, like, you don't know how it's going to go, right? You don't know if it's going to go like I could tell you when a player starts to decline. I can't tell you if the next thing is going to be right off the cliff or it's going to be like a steady decline. But once you're in decline, period, end of story. And I think we can officially say Hill is in decline. So what does that mean for the rest of the offense? Right. Schematically, other players putting into position, and just like, if we are no longer just running the whole thing through Tyreek Hill, how does he react to that as well? I think is another question we have to ask.
I'm just looking, because I'll start with Tyreek Hill too, because we talked about it a little yesterday. It's just a guy that's speed based. These are guys that are always scary in how they age. Now, Tyreek Hill as a route runner is a unique route runner because he uses his speed so much, but he can still, like, his sail routes, deep out route from the slot, look like nobody else's, because he can sell inside more because he's so fast and recover outside more. But then the thing is, if I've done that my whole life and it's worked for me my whole life, I got to change how I run routes now. Tyreek Hill's this is where my issues lay, is Tyreek Hill's personality is not exactly making me optimistic that he's going to grow his game and learn that about football and learn that about himself, a little self-reflection, especially after 30. And this is just back of napkin. Like, I could look at this more and study into it, but Next Gen Stats gives you, tracking numbers, how fast they're running. So just a little curious about what Tyreek Hill and what his drop-off was, because just eye test, I can see it. I know you chart. I'm more anecdotal. I check it, let film wash over me, as I like to say, and then see what sticks. When I watch Tyreek Hill, I'm like, he's slower. He's slower. Yeah. And that was just me just checking the eye test. In 2023, so it's only 2 years ago, 16 out of 17 games that Tyreek Hill played, he broke 20 miles an hour as a max speed. Last year, 5. Only 5 games he broke 20 miles an hour. 16 to 5. 2 years ago, 2023, he had 7 games where his average speed was 9 miles an hour or more. Last year, 0. He went from 7 to 0. And then he went from 13 games where his average speed was 18 miles an hour or more to now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 last year. He's slower. And it's just, I got and numbers here.
No one cares what his 100-meter time without pads on. Nobody should care about that. He will probably be fast in a straight line until he's 60. Okay, that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about playing football.
Exactly. And he is definitely slower, whether that some of that is natural, which, yes, you're past 30. Yeah, that's the human body, unless you're LeBron James or Tom Brady, ... But also just like when watching him, it's, that he's past 30. And also just like the effort wasn't there. Like you can fake it to get that max speed once. So the effort's not matching it as well. So when this whole offense is based on that speed, well, guess what happens? The thing that really makes this game go, or this offense go, these explosive plays that they were just, oodles of explosive plays every single week a couple of years ago, just falling off a cliff. And in 2022, the first year of the regime, 9.7 air yards per target. That 9.7. Last year was 5.8. This is all with Tua on the field too. So it's not a backup quarterback stat. This is only with Tua on the field. Attempts of 10 or more air yards. In 2022, 45% of their pass attempts were 10 or more air yards. Last year, 27%. So they went from nearly half to a quarter. Plays of 10 plus yards have dropped 5%. And it's just, some of this defense is caught up to the motions, to how they're trying to attack, to the lack of threat of like kind of a gritty run game. So defenses just start running cover 2. 18% cover 2 rates in 2022, and that was 27% last year. I didn't break it down by like down a distance or anything, but just overall. So they have to be more of a physical run game. And this is the offense that had the highest stuff rate allowed last year. So 32nd in stuff rate, that's gains of 0 yards or negative yards, 32nd in the league last year. They almost jumped 10% from the year before. That's insane. 1 out of 10 runs is now getting stuffed or going behind you. That you just cannot have that. So what I'm trying to look at is like, all right, where's the growth of this offense going to be? All right, you're trying to talk about being more physical in the run game. You can't turn that on overnight. It's not how your team is built. You're a speed team. This is what you were based your whole, your whole identity on. And they have to find the next answer, what it is. I'm not trusting it behind a reworked offensive line. I like Patrick Paul. I do, more than most people. He's an ugly barroom brawler as a blocker. His hands are all over the place, still from college in Houston to what he looks like in the preseason. He can get it done. I think long-term, he can be a solid starter for him. He's got the longest arms you've ever seen in your life, 36.25-inch arms, 97th percentile. Just so people know, anything over 34 is good. 36.25, 2 inches longer than good.
It's crazy.
He still manages to get it done, even if it's ugly sometimes. I like Jonas Vanilla out of Arizona that they traded up for. But again, he's up and down. He's a rookie guard that I think was going to be up and down. Aaron Brewer, one of the best free agent signings in the entire NFL last year. I truly mean that. But that's the thing. He's solid to good. Not, oh my God, Frank Ragnow, Creed Humphrey. Okay, this guy's a true booster to boost everyone up. And then we got the whole right side because Savania was playing left guard, at least when I checked on him. So now we got a right side that's not really what I want to put my stock in. Well, if you have a left-handed quarterback, that's your blind side. Like that, not how Matt, this is not how I would create a team. This is not how I would create a football team. No. So it's just everything. I understand some of the stuff they're trying to do philosophically, but it's like, I don't think you have the horses to do that. And some of the interesting things you did, we talked about Jonnu Smith yesterday, and I was like, that's the one you brought it up because I was like, Mike McDaniel's not changing anything he does. You're like, well, he did the Jonnu Smith stuff horizontally. Jonnu's gone.
He's gone.
They got Darren Waller. He's gone. And I like the other tight ends they have. Like they have this guy, Julian Hill, but he's like fine. I think he could just be a starter. I'm not saying like this guy give him 40 targets a game. I like him as like an undrafted guy, can block a little bit, but I'm not building the offense around him. So yeah, if you just can't tell, I'm just like, what are you guys? Like, I'm just trying to figure out, are you going to give touches to Ollie Gordon? You know, Achan's already hurt. Like, and what did they say, day to day or week to week with Achan?
Yeah, he's between, he's going to be out between days or weeks. And like that's pretty big difference in a time period there. Yeah, that's one thing that's crazy about Miami is that like they do have some interesting little role players that, like you mentioned, the tight ends. I really liked Malik Washington coming to the league. Nick Westbrook-Ikhine is what he is, but like he would be great as a sacrificial X receiver to get Jalen Waddle some snaps off the line, because I think people don't realize this, that Waddle has been the primary on the line of scrimmage player because they do all the fun move around stuff with Tyreek Hill. Like he took 82.4% sampled snaps on the line in reception perception last year. And that's gone up every single year, and he's been above 80% the last 2 years. Like it's not like an X receiver, because technically yes, but like because this offense is a little so weird, it's not, and condensed, it's not quite like every other, but still, like he doesn't get to do any of the kind of layup stuff. And when your quarterback's getting rid of the ball at like 2.5 seconds, yeah, right, like the fastest in the league the last 2 years, you're never getting to Waddle's read in the progression. So again, and even Achan, I think, is like probably more of a role player that they maybe rely too much on. So it just is like, it's great in fantasy when the ball only goes to like a couple of guys, but like they have some useful players, and it's just like those guys aren't getting maximized. And that's again leads me to your question too. Like what is this team supposed to be?
I know it's like, no, I don't hate it. Like they've had production and stuff, but I'm just like, long term, what are you building towards? Like I wish I could merge their skill guys with the Bills skills guys, and I could build you a badass receiver room. Burly in and out guys from the Bills, and then a bunch of speed guys with the Dolphins. And I wish I could merge those two. But yeah, last thing too is that they became very efficient last year, but it's at the cost of explosive passes. And this is everything I talk about with the Vikings with Justin Jefferson, because they started facing the same looks that the Dolphins started getting the same looks that the Vikings have gotten with Justin Jefferson. This is what the Vikings have done: added tight end, added another receiver that can play off of him, beefed up the interior offensive line, beefed up the run game, because those are the looks we're going to get every single week. Might as well take advantage of them. And it feels like the Dolphins are trying to figure it out, but kind of just don't know how to get there. And I think I'd have more faith that this maybe was year 2, but it just seems like, I don't know, they're running their faces into a wall a few times. Going to the defense, another unit with one really big strength. Their defensive line, their front is sick. The front 7 overall is pretty sick, but I'm sure we'll talk about the back end. But this defense, second half of last year, came on. They're 14th in weighted DVOA. This is 6th in suplex rate, 7th in EPA per play, 3rd in EPA per pass. They're pretty good against the run. They're getting after the quarterback. And then you look at their front. They got Zach Seiler, who's awesome. Jalen Phillips, who's always going to battle injuries. That's his whole shtick. But he's long and he's overwhelming when he's on the field. Bradley Chubb, same thing. Good player when he's on the field. Chop Robinson was excellent last year as a rookie. More on him in a sec. And then Matthew Judon, they threw in this week for good measure. That's a dangerous defensive line. And then they got Jordan Brooks, who was, along with Brewer at center. Jordan Brooks and Brewer were 2 of the best free agent signings in the entire NFL, period, last year. And this team, the Dolphins, who we all laugh at sometimes, they're the ones that signed them. And so I don't know, that's just a funny disconnect that this team has. They do really good with the bargain bin signings, and somehow those other things don't add up. But this Dolphins defense, I haven't talked about their DBs yet. How are you feeling about them right now?
Well, that's the first thing I wrote down is tell me how this secondary is not going to get deep fried every single week. Because this front bet, and you said talk about Chop Robinson in a second. I'll also say we'll talk about Chop Robinson in a second. Like and I think I know where we're going on that as the breakout player. And like, he better break out and like break out for real. Not like, he was an awesome pass rusher as a rookie, especially late in the season. And like, the Rams game, especially, just like, he's all over the place. Like I really think he's a very impressive player, but like, he better become like one of those type of guys, because this secondary has me, especially the cornerbacks, just have me so concerned that they're just gonna get lit up all year long. So I don't know, man. It just leads me to, again, kind of, I can sit here and look at some interesting stuff. Bradley Chubb and Chop Robinson, obviously we're high on that. Matthew Judon signing was interesting. Like, let's keep keep the load kind of light on a guy like Chop Robinson. Maybe he doesn't have to be out there every single snap. The Kenneth Grant, them drafting him there, I think they missed Christian Wilkins last year. I didn't think that was like the best use of resources in round one, because I think they had some bigger fish to fry. I don't know why I keep saying fried here, but they had some bigger things maybe to do on the to-do list. But man, like, the front is interesting, but I don't think it's interesting enough for me to not just keep thinking like Storm Duck and these guys are going to get toasted all year.
They, how long does Tua take to throw the ball? 2.2 seconds. Like, any pass that takes longer than 2.2 seconds, I think they're dead. But if they get to the quarterback in under 2.2 seconds, they're great. And I think that's what they're going to live and die by. It's like, all right,
walking a razor's edge on that one, buddy.
Yes. That's it. They say, and they can't run man coverage the entire year, because like, that's another thing. We talk about, I was just talking about the rock, paper, scissors battle. Well, it's a matchup league as well. And if you're going to run man coverage, you're betting on your guys to line up against our guys. And I'm sure there's some better receivers out there than than what these guys are going against. No, great call with Kenneth Grant too. He's actually looked good this preseason as well. I was, Charles, I think, was even higher, but I was high on him too going into this draft. I just never in a million years thought the Dolphins were going to be his landing spot, because of just what you said. Like, I thought they would go offensive line. That seemed pretty obvious to me, at least, or maybe a DB. So yeah, but it's a good player. Like, don't hate where they drafted him. Just curious about it. It's just, the like Mike Hilton, great slot player. Probably can only count on him for 12 games. Melifonwu at safety has had moments in his career, but he's just so inconsistent. And then Micah Fitzpatrick's great, but then Micah Fitzpatrick is unlocked as a true monster back.
A gambler.
Do whatever roam over the middle. Hey, come down as a robber and everything. That works way better when you have other guys to help him out. Otherwise, he can do all this, I'm going to trick the quarterback stuff. Well, the quarterback doesn't need to get tricked because the first read's open, because the guy's going to be wide open every time. So it's like, he's not great for this type of defense. He's best when he has other guys around him. And I love Micah Fitzpatrick, but the outside corners, like you said, are raced to their insert name here. And just, that's what they're going to hold their hats on. I do think the front's going to give some teams issues, but I think if you're going against this Dolphins team and some of the teams that, the teams that are actually contending and be playoff teams, I just don't think they can hold up toe to toe against a good passing attack, like down after down after down. Maybe some bad old lines they can overwhelm, but man, teams are just going to launch it up. And just, if you have one good receiver, we're going to attack them all day. It's just like their offense. There's like some stuff I really like, and then some stuff I'm just like, oh man, you're an off season away. And I just don't know if they're going to get that off season. So yeah, we both hinted at it. Breakout player. Are you feeling chopped up?
I am. I'm feeling very chopped up. Yeah, I didn't quite know what to think about him when they took him, the year before. I didn't have like a strong stance on him as a prospect or anything, but really got after it in the second half of the year. Somebody that I think just looks like one of those guys that could be a complete menace as a pass rusher. From week 10 on, he had a 20% pressure rate. And like that was really impressive to see. Like, I definitely somebody that I think is a strong pass rusher, but not like I was kind of, I don't know if you agree with this. I was kind of surprised that like wasn't completely worthless against the run either, like Correct. Somebody that I think was more physical on the edge than maybe I thought
he would be a negative.
So yeah.
Yep. So continue, but yes, I agree with you.
No, yeah, I thought he might turn out to be kind of like maybe like designated pass rusher is too harsh, but like a pass rush merchant type of player. Like that's maybe what I thought he would be, but he was much more of like a tone setter on the edge as a run defender than I thought, which again, like this team needs to be like, we can't get run all over. They need to turn into like a bit of a pass funnel, where like teams they're just going to abandon running on them. And then they need to have a great pass rush in order to work out, because if you're going to be a pass funnel and you have those corners, things could get dicey. So definitely somebody that I just want to give a shout out to as a really good player that took me by surprise last year.
Agreed. I liked him as a prospect, but I didn't love him because I'm with you. I thought he would just be a net negative against the run. I thought he was better than this, but kind of like Will McDonald is for the Jets. Yeah, you can get after the passer. You run at him, he's getting blown back 5 yards every single play. So that's kind of what I pictured for him. So I got what you meant when you said DPR, but like a DPR plus kind of guy. But shoot, even if he was just a designated pass rusher and couldn't stop the run. He's already doing his job. And that's what gets me excited, because I agree with you. I thought he was way more physical against the run. I'm not saying he's going to be excellent against it, but he's not. He's neutral, which if you can get after the passer,
could he be like Micah Parsons? You know, I know that's a big name, but like, you know, Micah Parsons is a guy that I think is heftier than you. It plays a little bit bigger than you would think, size profile wise, against the run. And again, week 10 on last year, 3 players, 40 plus pressures. Micah Parsons, Myles Garrett, Chop Robinson. Pretty good list to be on.
The whole season pressure rate, he was 5th. Micah Parsons, Danielle Hunter, Trey Hendrickson, Myles Garrett, Chop Robinson. And then I was like, okay, it was 17.2% pressure rate. So I was like, all right, where's that among all rookies, ever? So next gen stats, I can go back to 2016. It was the 4th highest since 2016 among a rookie pass rusher, or a rookie defensive player, I should just say. Josh Hines Allen, 17.9%. Well, Jags Josh Allen. Nick Bosa, who of course helped the 49ers his rookie year make a big run. Will Anderson, who is excellent right now with the Texans. And then Chop Robinson, 4th. So those guys all hit. It's one of these things where all of his metrics and the eye test, I'm like, yeah, you're good. Like, you're going to be fine. It's just now it's more just ceiling and other things he can throw in there. But he got hurt this preseason, but it looks he's already back. I think it was a rib.
Yeah.
So, but it was scary for about an hour until the news came out on it. All right. Over under win total, 7.5 for the Dolphins. Where are you leaning for this, Matt?
Under. I think the offense is pretty close to solved, and I'll believe it when I see it that they can come up with a consistent counterpunch that helps them win games. You know, also we'll see if Tua can play a full season. I hope he can, but you know, that's another reason why to take the under here. And again, I just think they're going to be chasing points all year long. And again, if I think they're going to be chasing points all year long, the offense is a little bit solved. That does not lead me to a very good season.
I'm also going under for the Dolphins, and I'm with you. It's just, even there's going to be stretches where this offense looks good, and I think the team pulls out some wins. It's a team built on a lot of guys that get hurt, especially their important players that get hurt. And I just think that there's a lot asking of the guys that there's a lot of guys in roles that might be a step too high for them. Where long-term, I actually think, okay, there's some decent things here, but it's just like, there's other aspects that draw it back for me, you know. Okay, yeah, you got a young offensive line, but then you got receivers, and like, we're overpaying and everything that, you know, might not be there for all 16 games, 17 games that we need. We have a quarterback that might only play 12 games. Like, just so many of those questions, I just can't build up confidence in this team, even if I do like the little aspects of it. So also going with the under with them. Moving on to one of the worst teams in the NFL last year. Had some bright spots that we'll talk about, but that's the New England Patriots. Fired Jared Mayo after 1 year, brought in Mike Vrabel, who is already making his presence felt in New England, you know, bopping some reporters on the nose, you know, just doing that little Belichick. You got to do it, I feel like, with that media. You know, they can come out, they can get after you in the Northeast and New England. So he's just like, you know, just keeping them back a little bit. So he hasn't missed a stride at all. It's like, you were out for a year, you're just ready, you're cured up. He's breaking up fights. He's doing some great. He's Vrabel's back. I'll just say that. But Josh McDaniels, offensive coordinator, who just, like, what is this, his 3rd tenure as a Patriots offensive coordinator. Terrell Williams, defensive coordinator, but right, 3rd he is though. And Terrell Williams, defensive coordinator, but Vrabel will have some input on that, like he did in Tennessee. But New England Patriots, who won 4 games last year, 4 games, took Will Campbell with that first pick from LSU. How are we feeling about the offense, Matt? What are you focusing on? How do these receivers get sorted out? I got a bunch of questions actually for you. Stephon Diggs, anything in the year 2025, but how do you feel about this Patriots offense, how it's all going to work out?
Yeah, I think my biggest question here, and I'm curious where you stand on this, I know you're a big Drake Maye guy. I really like Drake Maye and really want him to have a successful second season. So what do we think is closer to being average? Because neither was average. They might have both been 32nd in the league last year. Offensive line and pass catching core might have both been dead last in the league last year. What do we think is closer to being average, the pass catchers or the offensive line?
Pass pass catchers. Oh God, that's not. I don't feel great about it, but pass catchers.
that would have been my answer too, only because the offensive line, like you have two rookies starting at left tackle and left guard because they've moved
on the blind side.
Jared Wilson from collegiate center. Yeah, right.
Scary.
We'll see. I mean, it's just kind of we'll see, right? Like that's where I'm at with that. And Will Campbell's a guy that we all liked as a prospect, and we're kind of like, I mean, we don't have to make him a guard right away, but we might get to the end of this year and think like, okay, maybe he will make a better guard. I don't know. We'll see. We're generally Football 301 generally optimistic about the Will Campbell left tackle experience, but he is still a rookie left tackle, and he's got a rookie left guard right next to him, and he's got a center in Garrett Bradbury that the Vikings could not wait to get rid of. That is also on my radar too. They could not wait to get Garrett Bradbury out the door. So I think, and again, Morgan Moses has been a really nice right tackle, but he's 34 years old. Like, you don't know what you can't just write in pen that he's going to be the exact same player that he used to be. Which is a great transition to the pass catching core here that I actually am a little bit more optimistic about, because I definitely do not think Stephon Diggs is peak Stephon Diggs, and I don't think anybody would argue that. But before tearing his ACL for the Houston Texans last year in Week 8, non-contact injury, I think it was like running a curl route, just popped. But anyways, he was playing pretty well, and I actually think that while he was playing in the slot for the Texans, he was only doing so because that is what the Texans wanted a receiver to do for them. Remember, they tried to trade for Keenan Allen first. They were clearly trying to go to more of like a spread 11 personnel offense after being a heavy offense, the fullback the year before, and Slowick pretty clearly just could not make that transition from the Shanahan greatest hits to like splitting the difference with what CJ Stroud's, I think, more suited for. But they tried to trade for Keenan Allen. They wanted like more of a slot receiver to play in between these two perimeter guys in Tank Dell and, of course, Nico Collins. But Diggs was much better against man coverage than zone coverage in reception perception last year, still 71% against man press. Now, obviously, again, he's coming off an injury. We don't know what he's going to look like this year. But before going down for the Texans, I actually think you could look at him and say, I think he can still play flanker. Like, he's not going to play X. Kayshon Bouye's probably going to open the season as their X, and I think Kyle Williams might take that position over at some point down the road, if not just be Diggs' eventual replacement. But I do think that the player that Diggs was last year, which no guaranteeing he is that, but this guy is an outlier. He is, if he does something outlierish in his return from a torn ACL this year, this is the type of guy I would want to bet on, because even though Diggs is Diggs and, he's on the boat with Cardi B and he's doing drugs on Memorial Day and stuff, like allegedly, he's on video with the pink substance. Let me say that. Yeah. Diggs is my guy. So, okay, I want to be clear about that. But even though he's doing all that, the guy is a maniacal worker. That's the reason he went from a 5th round pick to a all pro receiver. So I think if he just comes back strong, I wouldn't be surprised. And I do think, because I'm a little higher on Diggs than maybe everybody else, it makes me a little higher on this receiver room, because I think I like some of the role players. I think Travion Henderson's going to make a big difference as a pass catcher. So I do think I'm with you that between the two units, I'm higher on the pass catching core being not great, but closer to average than the offensive line.
I remember we talked about this. Kyle Williams was a guy you were trying to kind of fight your own history with a little bit. It's usually a guy you fall for, but you're like, no, siren song kind of thing. Yeah, no, I get it. I have a few of those archetypes I fall for as well. But a guy that we kind of in line with, it's kind of like how we had him slotted as like projected and everything. I thought this is exactly the range I looked at Kyle Williams, a late second, early third round grade is what I had on him. And they took him in the third. Perfect. I feel like the synergy between him and Drake Maye is perfect. That's the exact type of receiver I want for him, as far as an explosive play guy, maybe a little better downfield. Again, this is more anecdotal from when I watched Kyle Williams and everything. So I am optimistic about him long term. Right now, it doesn't seem like he's getting the targets. Vrabel's even kind of going, he's getting open. The ball will find him. But the head coach is saying that's good, and it's a head coach that hates receivers, so that's even better. That he's kind of going, no, he's
except
gonna be okay.
AJ Brown, the only receiver he's ever liked, and the team traded him away.
It's probably the one receiver that like challenged him to a fight. And he like didn't. He was kind of like, wait, no, I bullied these guys my whole life. No, but I think long term I like that. I just don't know what it'll look like in 2025. Booty apparently has had a great camp. I am not a Kayshon Boutte guy. I especially last year.
Same.
A lot of wasted targets deep going to him. I'm not, but apparently he's had a good camp. So who knows? Got to remember, at one point in history, he was the consensus number one receiver in his class before he had probably one of the worst seasons a player could have on field and off field.
Yeah, he was. He was horrible. Yeah,
a lot of stuff. Yeah, dropping ball, everything, off field stuff. Yeah, and then Pop Douglas is the permanent slot guy, but he's kind of an old school slot, undersized speed guy, as opposed to what now with that position getting more size. And you can see, like, I really like Pop Douglas in his role. He can actually create some yak, but you see the limitations when you have an undersized slot guy. You see it in the preseason. Drake Maye throws an over route to Pop, and I see people online going like, yeah, Maye missed him high. What was that throw? And then you watch the all 22 angle. And it's like, well, it's a 5'8" receiver, 20 yards down the field, and Maye hits him right on the helmet. The guy was 6 foot like a normal receiver. That's hitting him right in the face mask. And we're not saying crap. It's that's why I like size with my receivers. Like, that's a big part of it. Because if you want to attack downfield, it's a lot easier to throw to a big target down the field. It's just physics. But
especially over the middle.
Especially over the middle. Diggs to me is a conundrum because it's like I think how he's going to be effective is different than in the past. Like I really picture him as a chain mover type. I think he's going to be a nuisance on third down. And I actually picture kind of what the non-explosive way the Bills kind of ended up using at the end of his Bills tenure, some slot where he's doing a lot of slot out routes and those types of plays. Like I see him working really well in those types of plays as well. So, Diggs is Diggs. You don't want to invest in a 32-year-old guy off of a major leg injury, yada, yada, but he's still going to be helpful for this team that really needs guys to be helpful. Got to mention Chisholm. Have you any charting on Efton Chisholm?
No. No. There's always some rando in preseason that the Discords lighten up about. I gotta chart this guy. I'm like, I never even heard about him until like, I hate to say it, but just another Patriots white slot receiver. Like, really, they're playing too much into type here. What are we doing? Come on.
Oh, Patriots beat is so excited about him.
Oh, they're all over.
Shut up. It's like talk about what about your draft picks? I want to hear about these. How's Campbell doing? How's Kyle Williams doing? Enough about Chisholm.
Dude, they went from like, hey, remember how productive slot receivers were in Josh McDaniels' offense? Like, Demario Douglas is going to have a big year because he's the slot receiver. They went from that to like, no, forget about it. Let's Efton. Who's the Chisholm? Get the Chisholm in there.
Chisholm. I want it. Eyes wide open. He's
probably going to be great.
For Chisholm. That's what it's like for the Patriots beat right now. But apparently he's a nice burly guy. He's going to make the team. He did have a nice preseason, but I just want to temper expectations for him. Hunter Henry, still a nice solid tight end, and he's the safety blanket. It's just that they need stuff down the field. I think they have some guys that could be interesting. Have to see it all unfold. And I think Drake Maye will be comfortable in this offense. He's good under center. Like, that's why I'm not too worried about some of the transitioning for him. O-line, though, got to mention this. You mentioned Bradbury. Vikings couldn't wait to get rid of him. Allowed the highest one-on-one pressure rate among all centers in the NFL last year. He allowed not just the rate, also allowed 28 one-on-one pressures last year, 5 one-on-one sacks, highest among all centers in the NFL, full-time starting centers, I should say. And the year before that, it was a little better, but still has always been a below average or worse starter. So that's been one, even when they signed him, I'm like, I appreciate the vet center signing for a young quarterback, but someone that could actually play would be nice. Like we heard a lot about Shelton Coleman, maybe just from me, the Bears starting center. Garrett Bradbury's numbers were worse than Shelton Coleman last year. Like that's bad. That's really, really bad. The worst of the worst. Like his numbers were comparable to Tanner Bortolini, 4th round rookie center for the Colts. That's that's not what I want from my starting center guy I'm signing. I really like Jared Wilson, the 3rd rounder. That is a project at center, but they might start him at left guard, like you said. I've been high on him throughout the process. I didn't think he had guard ability because he's just kind of transitioning to center, but a rookie blindside is not what I want, but that's what Bill Belichick left us. And And I think Campbell looks excellent already as a run blocker. Pass blocking, it's up and down right now. Length is giving him some speed. Guys are giving him a little bit of issues, but he's fine technique wise. But it's just gonna be one of those things. He's gonna have some moments where guys overwhelm him, but he already just looks like a good player, like that, not making mistakes, really good in the run, like really, really, really good in the run. So that do have that. You mentioned Henderson, he should really help, but a lot of interesting stuff. And then this whole Drake Maye guy. Spoilers. I'll talk about him a little bit. I'll talk about him a little bit later for a different section. All right, but going on to the defense. Really actually transitioning schemes here. This Patriots defense has kind of been this Patriots defense for 20 years as far as scheme and what they lean into. They made some changes in the last couple of years of Bill Belichick with Steve Belichick calling plays, and Mayo had input as well, where they're doing some more too high stuff. But now Vrabel is kind of, from just memory, more of a quarters-based guy. Does a little bit of everything, but maybe a little less man coverage, a little bit more zone. Looking to trade, this is related, Kyle Duggar, who is better in that kind of hybrid man scheme than this kind of more traditional scheme. But how do we feel about the Patriots defense? Do you think they could be a sneaky good unit this year?
Well, I think they can be better than they were last year, because in all of the talk about, the Patriots had this bad season last year, and most of the focus was on the offense. Mm-hmm. This defense was not good last year, and they were still third in man coverage rate. They still, like you said, tried to do the same old Patriots things, and they just did not have the players to get it done. I also think not to retcon the Gerard Mayo era, but it is worth noting that the guy had he had two promotions last year, because he went from being not just promoted to the head coach, but also promoted as like the main defensive guy. And guess what, gang? He's not there anymore. It didn't work out. So they did make a lot of defense, like veteran additions. Milton Williams. I really think the Robert Spillane signing is pretty cool there. I'm sure like Vrabel just sees himself in Spillane, and I know they have a history together. So Harold Landry, that one doesn't really do much for me, but maybe Vrabel is able to access what he got from him early on in his career. But Carlton Davis, another really good addition that I think pairs quite well with Christian Gonzalez, who's just such like a badass man coverage corner. Like, I still want him to lean into some man coverage stuff, because like Gonzalez is one of the guys that I trust to like lock up a number one, and I think Carlton Davis can be a good supporting actor in that pursuit. So I think the defense, it was terrible last year. Like, again, it was undersold because the offense was so bad, and that drew most of the focus. But the defense was no good last year, and I do think signings like Spillane and Milton Williams and Carlton Davis can get them back to maybe around middle of the pack.
Yeah. I think middle of the pack is a fair expectation for them. There's chances that this could be a top 10 unit too. Like, they do have pieces to get there. Just one of these things I have to see. But I'm comfortable with this defense where it's at. I at the very least, I think this is going to be an average unit or better. The Duggar stuff, like that makes sense. I really like Duggar, but he's just such a specific player. Like, there's like three defenses that he could even play in right now. He's basically a linebacker. Like, just like Josh Metellus, everyone wants to say, oh, he plays everywhere. He's a linebacker. He's a will linebacker. Just, he has a safety designation, so we freak out about it. But he's the same size as linebacker. You see, he lines up as a linebacker. That's a linebacker. Same with Duggar. He's basically the same things. He's a slot linebacker type. Like the size up front. I love Milton Williams. He's not a one-year wonder where it's like he's going to drop off. I've heard great things about his character, work ethic. I think he's going to justify that money. Barmore is back. Christian Barmore. That's going to really help back in the middle. Keon White's a good player. You mentioned Harold Landry, and I said, yeah, he couldn't wait. Vrabel couldn't wait to bring him in. But great call on Robert Spillane. Just a good, solid linebacker. That's going to help a lot. They had a lot of weaknesses over the middle of the field. The linebackers couldn't cover. They're going the wrong direction. It was really ugly as the season went along. I want to say they played the 49ers, and the 49ers just went to town on their linebackers. It was ugly. Guys are just running like 20 yards wide open. I got to look up average separation stats for that game. It was disgusting. But no, Christian Gonzalez, great call. I think he's going to be all pro this year. Was he last year? But no, he's a fantastic player, a guy that I think can play in any scheme. So I'm not worried about the scheme transition. Great call, Carlton Davis. He's got to be healthy. He's always going to miss games. And on top of all this, and I know we're talking defense, I think this team's going to have really good special teams. They got Trayvon Henderson returning kicks too. He's explosive. Also, another thing with Henderson, awesome pass protector. which is why I think he's going to be on the field a lot with Stevenson. I'm not going as crazy as some people drafting him 1-1 in Dynasty, but he's going to have a nice role this year. And I think that's insane, but he is a good player, and he's going to be on the field a lot because coaches already trust him, and I get why they trust him. But I was going to say, I think they're going to have really good special teams that can create some kick returns, and they also face one of the easiest schedules in the NFL. Like, I don't know, there's some nice things here that are kind of lining up for them to have a nice bounce back here, along with, Vrabel's going to get his praise because he has his fans in the media. We're going to go on now. Breakout play. Does he? Breakout player. Who's your potential breakout player for the New England Patriots, Matt?
I think we're going to line up on this one too. It's the obvious one. It's Drake Maye. I think. Yeah, look, it's the obvious one. So, the guy was second in scramble yards last year, despite not playing a full season. He's definitely an asset as a runner. I think that's gonna behoove him well when he gets some pressure this year. But there's some metrics that, like, he was really good over the middle of the field last year. When the middle of the field was open, post snap, according to PFF, he was sixth in adjusted yards per attempt on those plays, behind Lamar Jackson, Baker Mayfield, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Brock Purdy, right ahead of Matthew Stafford. Only those 6 guys that I mentioned, so not Stafford, but the other 6, they're the only ones that are over 8 adjusted yards per attempt over the middle of the field. So good player. I think he's a good passer. Like, he's going to be erratic every now and again. I think that's fine. But I really do think, like, this receiver room has guys that can get open. Pop Douglas, definitely like a limited slot player, but he's more of a man-beating slot player than a zone slot guy. So that is he's a little bit of an odd player, but I think him and Diggs can work in concert. Diggs is still a guy who can get you separation underneath. We'll see about Kayshon Boutte, but if Kyle Williams ever gets out there, that's the exact type of small receiver who can beat press coverage that I'm like, why don't we play him outside? The coaching staff never does, and I always like him a little bit ahead of consensus, but what can you do? So welcome to the Jaden Reed zone, Kyle Williams. But and Hunter Henry's a reliable tight end, and Travion Henderson out of the backfield, man. I mean, he's a guy that I think will create layups for Drake Maye. So I don't quite know where we're getting, 3-pointers and I'm mixing metaphors, but like where we're getting 3-pointers and home runs and stuff like that. But I do think we can get a lot of layups in this passing game here.
Yeah. And which I think is good because Drake Maye is going to push the ball. So my breakout player is Drake Maye as well. I don't think I'm shocking anybody with this, but I really stand on this, even if I weren't a big believer in him anyways. The underlying metrics were good last year, even if the just counting stats are like, whatever. But his, success rate, it was the 7th highest success rate among all rookie quarterbacks since 2012, which is, it's notable for what the situation he was going in. Like, all the other guys that are above him, it was like much better situations. Maybe not Andrew Luck, may have been the other one, and that's Andrew Luck, the greatest prospect ever in my mind. But what I like about Maye, and you saying you give him the easy chances, is that he's a walking, talking, explosive play as a runner and as a passer. Like, he wants to push the ball, and it's not pushing the ball where I'm like, what are you doing, man? That's dumb. He's a selectively aggressive, but it's like always makes sense in my mind. It kind of caught him a couple times at the end of last season when he was really trying to push it in 2-minute situations, and he threw a couple picks. One of them was Boutte, kind of gamed him up. Another one, he kind of had a little too much dip on his chip. But those are what you need to be a good quarterback. You need these guys that want to push the ball, even when he has a bad offensive line and receivers he can't trust. So if that stuff improves, and we're saying we're going to let him get on base a little bit more, I just think it's all systems go, even if the personnel and the surroundings aren't perfect. I do think that we're going to see a baseline where those flashes are more sustained. It's not just people making fun and go, oh, you like him because of this, you liked him because of that. It's like, no, I think anyone that watches him kind of realizes what he's capable of, because I'm still high on him. I still think he has, not this year, but I still think he has MVP type potential in his career. And I think we start seeing some more sustained glimpses of that. The big thing for him that I would say is just that go down, don't take as many hits. But what's great is that you can tell he's already talked about it. And he's already saying, like, no, we've already gone about it. I shouldn't take as many blows. And it's like, okay, cool. All right, we can work with that. Having said that, I would like to see more design runs with him. But that's we'll see as the season goes along. Only 7 last year. So is McDaniels the number one guy I would put him with? No, but I don't think it's a bad pairing, because I also think that Maye will kind of work in any type of offensive system. So I think this is going to be a nice floor lifter, everybody's surroundings, offensive play caller, but he is going to push it over the top and make it look even sexier than it actually is. So Yeah, pretty high on Maye and what he's going to do this year. All right, over under 8.5 wins for the Patriots. What are you going with, Matt? This keeps rising, by the way. I swore this was at 6.5 in the spring. I know it was at 7.5 for a while, but it's at 8.5 now.
I don't know. 8.5 is just a little too high for me. Like, they were a 4-win team last year. I think I'm going to go under. Like, I don't think it will be much under. I could see them. Like, I really think being an 8-win team this year would be a big win. Like, that would. We're talking about a team that won 4 freaking games last year. So if they can add 4 wins onto that, and again, we are hoping one of the offensive line or pass catching core gets to average. I think we're kind of hoping that the defense gets to 14th best in the league, like slightly above average. And I think Drake Maye is going to be great. We are in lockstep on you're leading the charge, but I'm close behind you in the parade.
I'm like the orc at okay. I can't say this reference because you might not get it. In the Two Towers. Have you seen that movie,
Bro,
Lord of the Rings?
Okay. Whoa. I will get every Lord of the Rings ref that you throw out. You want to say any Star Wars?
The Berserker, or blowing up Helm's Deep. Yeah, that's me leading the charge on Maye. I can't wait to blow up in blaze of glory once it all comes crashing
1,000%, which is fitting because that's how Drake Maye plays. But yes, no, Lord of the Rings is one of the movies I've seen 55 times, and I have no time to see any of the other movies. So don't worry. But anyways, I know you're leading the charge. I'm not far behind you, but I don't know that he's going to break out so to the level that he can take an below average offensive line, maybe average pass catching, or maybe average defense and make them like a 10-win team. I think if he does that, it makes them an 8-win team. That's a successful season. So I will go slightly under here on 8.5.
God, you're nailing. I am going to go over because in my head, I have them spoilers as the 7th wildcard team. So that means 9 wins in my brain. So I'm going to go over, but I think that's the cap. Like that, I do not see this team as a double-digit win team, even if it all goes well. Like, I think 9 is the high. So as a betting man, that's not a great bet that I'm going to actually feel great about. No. Like 7.5 would be much better, much more comfortable. But I'm going to say over just because narrative sense in my head, that makes more sense that they go 9 and 8. But like you said, if they win, 7 games is a good year. 7 games and you feel really good about Maye, that's a win. 8 games is a great year. And then if they 9 wins and potential playoff team, of course, they're all amazing. Woo, coach of the year, all that fun stuff. So I am going to go with the over, even if it's a slight, barely over that I don't love. All right, we're going to take our last break. We'll come back with the JETS, Jets. All right, we are back with the New York Jets. I hesitated on the spelling. I'm not Fireman Ed. I'm just Nate. But we're gonna talk about their offense. We're just grabbing some headlines because not in a good way right now. Lack of passing game. We get Justin Fields at quarterback. Again, this team has a new head coach, new offense coordinator, new defense coordinator. Aaron Glenn is in here right now. I see his kind of personality with this defense, which will be interesting to talk about. But the offense, it's the focus with Justin Fields at the quarterback, the passing game, all that good stuff. What do you feel? How do you feel about the Jets offense, Matt, and the passing game and everything that they got going on?
Yeah, I really like Aaron Glenn, and I don't think this stuff really matters. I don't want to be like analytics Twitter every time that, a coach says something like this and they just pile on and show everybody how smart they are. But I didn't love when, a reporter asked Aaron Glenn, like, yeah, it's a passing league, kind of intimated that. He's like, what do you mean? The team that won the Super Bowl was first in rushing and like 29th in passing or something. It's like, I don't know about that, pal. I know he's just doing the thing, but still, that it just gives me a real hang up about how this team is built. Okay. I think I have settled on, as we've gotten closer to the season, that the Justin Fields idea of this offense, it's going to be one of those things that you talk yourself into in March and April, when there's no actual games on, be like, this team could be respectable. Like this team could be respectable with Justin Fields at quarterback and Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall and this offensive line. And then we're in December and Tyrod Taylor starting games. I don't know. I just that to me, I think Fields is what he is. We talked about this yesterday. I don't necessarily totally know how he fits in what I imagine this offense wants to be from a pass game standpoint. I know we'll talk about the run game, and I do think the run game is going to be cool. And I think the offensive line is a unit I'm really high on. Spoiler alert, my breakout player is going to come from this offensive line. But just the passing game part of it, to me, I remember when Fields went to the Steelers, I was thinking, like, they got to get somebody else alongside George Pickens, because, I mean, if you wanted to, I know I just said the Aaron Glenn Eagles Super Bowl, they were 29th in passing thing, but I think, like, for like Jalen Hurts, right? Like, what's good about Hurts is that he's got so many options out on the route. Like, okay, you want guess what? He's got two guys to kick ass out there. I don't love Fields, who's a little bit too robotic as a passer anyways, and as a processor. I hate just giving him one option, and which is all you've got in this passing game. Like, we're looking at Tyler Johnson on the depth chart. Tyler Johnson's played for like 11 freaking teams. Josh Reynolds got cut by the Jaguars this offseason. So, like, I didn't even know he was on the Jaguars. Like, Mason Taylor's a second-round rookie tight end.
Told me that.
Yeah, like, what are we talking about? So it's so much. Justin Fields is so much like a touchdown to check down passer. That is who he has become. And Garrett Wilson's a guy you want to feed a lot of targets in the intermediate area. I've gone from being like, oh, that was a pretty nice little signing by the Jets, to just be respectable, to now I just feel like this is going to end up being one of the worst passing games in the league. So really depressing to start this off.
We talked about it, because it was, for me, it was fade the passing game, but buy into the run game, and that's just Fields the quarterback. And like you said, there's not a lot of auxiliary receivers here. Like Mason Taylor, I think is gonna be a nice, fine tight end. He's just battling a high ankle sprain already. He played in the last preseason game, so that's good. More of an underneath option, all that. Fields, the archetype of this player is Hurts is one guy, Russell Wilson's the other guy, Daniel Jones is another guy. Those guys, they play almost exactly the same. They don't throw over the middle. They throw beautiful go balls, but Daniel Jones doesn't throw them. So he's a little bit different. They scramble a ton. They're very good scramblers. They take a lot of sacks, and they're bad in quick game. So it's a unique style. You can make it work. The freaking Eagles just won the Super Bowl making this work. But you need a great run game. Okay, Jets can get there. But you also need dudes on the outside. If you're only going to throw to the outside, I need not one, but two real players on the outside. Not saying both have to be all pro receivers, but guys that can tangibly win on the outside. That's the only way this offense can work. You need a great run game and some guys that can be ball winners, because there's just not that consistency of guys catching and running. So your explosive plays have to be those 50-50 go balls. These guys are not throwing over the middle consistently, so you're not getting the benders, the digs, the stuff where the guy's on the move and they can catch, run, and go. You watch the 49ers or the Dolphins offense that we just ripped on, but if you watch the 49ers, or maybe just I did, but 49ers offense, it's catch and run, over the middle. Almost, there's jokes about Jimmy G that he's not seeing a guy rotating down the robber in the middle, because he's just thrown to that spot, and so they can catch and run with it. This offense, all right, and now we're going to be low usage because it's going to be run first. Let's use Fields' legs. Wow, it's just, this is going to be such a frustrating. There's going to be those 8 of 18 games, those 6 of 20 games passing wise. Garrett Wilson is going to have 9 targets, but only catch 3. But a couple of them might be big plays, but it's going to be so volatile. It's going to be all based on who they can beat out. And again, like you said, we talked about this yesterday on the companion piece on Fantasy Forecast, but it's just Wilson to me is more of a usage guy. Get him going, frequent. Get him going. Get the ball in his hands. Just let him go to work. Not a big play merchant. He can catch a ball and become a big play, but down the field, big play merchant. That's just not his play style. So it's not adding up to me, and I think it's going to be very boom bust, the most extreme boom bust kind of passing game you can picture. But positive sides, the run game could be cool. And that's going to grab my interest. And I think they'll beat up on some bad defenses that can't stop the run. Too bad they can't play the Falcons or something, or some of these other teams that can't stop the run, some soft defenses. But I think it's going to be fun. I think they got juice on the offensive line. Armand Mbao, kind of up and down second preseason game, but looked good in the first preseason game. Olu Fashanu, their left tackle, first round pick last year, looks great. Really, really, really good. And then they got the interior trio is pretty good. Like Elijah Vera Tucker is a Pro Bowl quality guard. He's just never healthy. And the other two guys are good too, or at least solid. They also have had weaknesses at tight end blocking, which has hindered their run game. But enter Mason Taylor, and then Jeremy Ruckert actually looks motivated. Like it's his third or fourth year. I think their tight end coach was bad. And so I think that was a lot of it too. And he was there for forever. So I think that's going to help as well. But it's like, that's just the run game. And talking about the running backs, we talked about this on the show yesterday. I think Braylon Allen's going to be the guy that ends up breaking out of this run game and being the lead back. I think they love him. I think he's a great fit, but they still have Breece Hall as a good player too. And who knows what happens with him. But I do think they'll have a good run game, a very good run game at times. They'll overwhelm some teams. It's just that as soon as they get a negative game script and they have to drop back and pass, oh boy, hold on to your hat. It's just not something I'd be willing to bet on.
Yeah, it's over, dude, when that happens. And just last thing too, like I do think that, the Colts are selling this, hey, Shane Steichen's talking about Daniel Jones' 2022 season, right? And like that's what we're going to try to do, which good luck, buddy. Good thing we already talked about that division. But with that year, Daniel Jones was literally last in deep throw percentage. Only Colt McCoy got the ball out like at a shorter average depth of target that year among guys who took 150 dropbacks. By the way, I just said Colt McCoy. Guy's like a broadcaster now. So that's how long ago this was.
Yeah.
Anyways, dude's doing a YouTube show with Josh Norris like last year. Okay, that's what we're talking about, that quarterback. So little bit a long time ago, but that only worked because like the Colts want to do the RPO thing where we're getting the ball to the first read and like it's the RPO stuff that we want to get back to basically what we were doing with Minshew. The problem with trying to replicate that with Fields is that he just takes forever to get that thing out of there. Like I do think that this would work if he was just sped up a little bit, but I like Justin Fields. I just at this point haven't seen that guy.
No. And that's what we talked about too yesterday, was that his elongated motion, it hinders screens because the ball takes too long, it gets batted down, he's inaccurate on it. Yeah, it's just he's a very specific quarterback and it has to be used in certain ways. And really, I mean, him and Russ have so much in common. It's just that Russ got to get dropped in on that Seahawks team. Russ is a more consistent thrower just overall too, and quicker and all that, but they have similar weaknesses. Guess what? When Russ went on that Seahawks, and Russ does not want to be a runner. He'll scramble around to throw and then scramble, but he always wanted to be a
quarterback. By the way, neither does Fields. Neither does Justin. That's
what you said yesterday.
These guys don't. I will never forget this. Like, I don't know if I've told you this story or if I've told it on this show, but I used to do a show with Austin Eckler, and at the Super Bowl a couple of years ago in Phoenix, we had Justin Fields on the show, and he goes, Austin says, "We got a 1,000-yard rusher on this set right now, and it's not me." And I was like, "Well, obviously it's not me, because it was just Austin never ran for 1,000 yards, but Justin had run for 1,000 yards the year before." And I mean, Justin was just like, "Yeah, cool, whatever." And at the end of the interview, Austin goes, "Man, I can't wait to see you rush for 1,000 yards this year." And he goes, "I freaking hope not." Like, these guys don't want to do this because they want to play quarterback. Even if they have flaws, they want to play quarterback. They don't want to do the running thing, and they also don't want to get smoked all season long. So that's part of like the thesis of the Justin Fields thing is we're just going to grind him into the dust as a rusher, and then eventually we'll figure out quarterback later. That part I'm skeptical about too.
I am too. And I kind of know what he is now. He's Daniel Jones plus to me. that's kind of just how I vision Justin Fields. And that's not the greatest thing in the world. And this is a guy that was high on Justin Fields coming out as a prospect. Going to the defense, which is interesting because this unit was very good. I was high on them. I think a lot of us were going into last year, and weeks 1 through 5, 4th in sacks, 4th in pressure rates, 6th in EPA per play, 4th in suplex rate, 1st in passing success rate, 6th in overall success rate. Then they fired their head coach. And I don't think they consulted. I don't think Woody Johnson consulted everybody. Maybe his sons over Facebook or something, or Instagram. But he got fired after week 5. Week 6 onwards, they lost their heart. 25th in sacks, 31st in EPA per play, 24th in suplex rate, 29th in success rate. They just went from one of the better units to one of the worst units, and a lot of it was because they just stopped trying. They just stopped caring and stopped trying to just do anything. And they had some injuries and stuff too, but really, really fell off. Enter Aaron Glenn and Steve Wilkes, defensive coordinator. It seems to me that they're leaning into more man coverage. At least from preseason. Aaron Glenn loved man coverage when he was at the Lions. I have thoughts on that, but I just an interesting unit that's got lots of good players at all levels too, but some holes as well. But with this Jets defense, you rank them 8th in our top 10 defenses pod. I'm just a little bit lower. I think about like 12 to 14, 16 range, somewhere in that tier. But this defense, Matt, why'd you have them 8th? How are you feeling about them? Can they be a unit that kind of gets after people?
Yeah, I actually think the defense could be really good this year because number one, they just got a lot of good players. Some guys that I'd love to buy low on, right? Like Sauce Gardner. I think Sauce Gardner's skill set actually might play a little. Now he's a grabby dude, but like he also might play a little bit better in like a man coverage heavy defense as opposed to. I mean, some of that stuff that Sal was doing, like it ends up turning to match situations anyways, even if it starts out as zone. And this is like my axe to grind with some of the like the overall defensive charting stuff. It's like, okay, well, it's a zone coverage look, but like the skills to beat it as a receiver, you need man coverage beating skills, and like skills to cover as a corner, you need like man coverage skills too. So like we're blurring the lines anyways. Nothing is real anymore, folks. It's all fake. But so
do you mean football, I do think football data has got some noise to it? And that we should
perhaps
just a little bit of noise,
just a little bit of noise. So Sauce Gardner, I think he'd play well in that sort of situation. I think Brandon Stevens also like can't track the ball, can't play the ball at the catch point, but he's like a pretty sticky cover. Other than that, it's a pretty sticky cover corner. So I think he can actually play well in that type of defense too. And I kind of like the Andre Cisco thing at safety. Again, a guy I'd maybe want to buy in a bounce back. Jermaine Johnson coming back, hopefully healthy. Will McDonald's not. Like he took a step forward last year. The linebackers are solid. You know, Quinn Williams obviously is a dude. So like they've got good players on this defense. And I'm really intrigued by the fact that like Aaron Glenn is there, but also Steve Wilks is the defensive coordinator here. Like I'm interested to see how their philosophies marry. And by the way, these are two like defensive back guys. So I just think this defense is going to end up being maybe better than they're projected out right now, which you hope so based on the offensive analysis that we just gave, that like we don't want to be in a lot of pass first situations. We want to have some close game scripts here.
They just have enough, like, and sometimes we just go like, oh, they have guys and they have some talent and stuff like, or some interesting players. It's like, no, they have like legit dudes, like
they have like premier talent,
some of the best at their position guys. Like, so that's what the optimism I totally get. And especially it's nice when they have one at each spot. Quinn Williams, one of the best defensive tackles in the game, one of the best defenders in the game, I think. Quincy Williams, his brother, good linebacker, headhunter. And then, like you said, Sauce Gardner. Okay, we got one at every level. That's pretty nice. I'm with you that I think Sauce Gardner will kind of get unlocked in this defense. He looked great in the preseason, at least against the Packers. Did get called for one DPI. So you're or defense holding or DPI. So you might be onto something there. And that scheme where Sauce only played one side, I'm not sure how much they're going to move him around. I haven't been studying it or focusing on what they've said narratively, but I'm interested in seeing him in a man-heavy scheme because I think he can handle it. He's got length and movement skills, and he's frisky. He's got good hands against the. He doesn't get a lot of picks, but he's got a lot of hands, against the receivers and stuff. So losing DJ Reed, who ironically goes to Detroit, that would have made me feel a lot better if they wanted to go so man heavy, because Stevens kind of got torched at the end of last year, and that's what maybe that's just playing out in my head with the Ravens. But then you look, like you said, you brought up Andre Cisco. He's solid, I think, safety. Jermaine Johnson, we'll see as he comes back from injury, but Michael Carter, solid player. Will McDonald's got is really nice in his role. He can get after the passer, but teams are going to run right at him and see if he can defend the run. But I do think that they have pieces that this could be a good unit, like where you have them ranked 8th, and I think that's fair. I think that they can get up to that point. So, yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm really just even though like looking at I like to look at backups that can ascend. They drafted this guy, Zaria Thomas from Florida State in the 3rd round. Didn't test great, but he's a monster. And good, and anyway, he gets physical with man. So I was like, of course Aaron Glenn drafted him. This guy is so grabby and so big. Of course he drafted him. So, just maybe a potential backup that can ascend too. So I'm right there with you. I think 8 to 15 range is perfect for this defense and could be and has enough dudes to give offenses issues. Breakout player for the Jets. Who do you got, Matt?
I went with Olu Fashanu on this one.
Nice.
Left tackle I thought was really impressive at the end of last season. I also thought he was a good prospect that maybe got nitpicked a little bit throughout the course of that draft process, but
he did.
Good pass protector. Definitely somebody that I feel that's one thing that if you're going to argue in favor of Justin Fields, this is by far the best pass protection he's ever going to play with. I mean, Armand Member's a rookie tackle. You never really know, but I like the interior a lot. And I just think Fashanu can grow to be one of those guys, like ascend from, finished the rookie season strong. I think he was good in pass protection. The whole run game was kind of a mess in that offense last year, so I don't have a strong take one way or another there, but I really liked his pass protection skills. Can mirror guys well, and just someone that I think is going to ascend this year to just be, maybe like a potential top 10 left tackle in the league.
Oh yeah, no, I think you're very fair. Charles and I were kind of pulling our hair out last year in the prospect stage where we're like, why is everyone hating on this guy? He's good. And then everyone brought up the Ohio State game because it was JT Tuamalo and Jack Sawyer who kind of gave him the business. And everyone brought up that game. Man, they're just beasting him. And I was like, and even for me, who had him high, I had him as a top 5 player at one point. He still ended up in my top 10. I was just like, yeah, he was kind of getting beasted. And I learned afterwards he was hurt. So it's like, all right, throw the game out. You're going to be hurt in the NFL, but he was hurt just playing with a bum leg, I think he had. So I was like, okay, all right, I'm going to weigh these other games a little higher. And then as a rookie, he hit the ground running because he was such a polished player as a prospect. He had great eyes and everything. So this is an agreement with you that I think this is a great choice. And I'm with you. I think he has Pro Bowl level potential. And I don't know, maybe he hits it this year, but he's a good player, I think, already. So great call there. I went with Braylon Allen, which shouldn't shock anybody. I've been kind of beating the drum on him for a few weeks now. He looks great. And I think the system's perfect for him, even if it ends up a 50-50 split or 60-40 split. I do think, though, he ends up being the guy in this backfield just because he just looks so good. And I think they really like him. But he's got size. He's got better hands than people give him credit for. And then pass protection stuff, he's actually pretty good in too. So he's a 3-down. They got 2 3-down guys. And then again, I said this on the show yesterday. This is not a knock on Breece Hall. I still like Breece Hall. I just think that narratively that they're leaning more on Braylon Allen. They like him. He's super young. You'll hear that 100 times when they talk about him. But I think he breaks out and ends up being the lead guy in this backfield, which should be a pretty interesting run game. So Braylon Allen, go Badgers. All right. 6.5 wins for the New York Jets. Over, under 6.5 for you, Matt.
Yeah, I'm going to go under here. I think I just don't think the offense is going to be good enough.
I'm also going under. I think don't have enough firepower on offense. Even if which is so weird to say when they got offensive rookie of the year receiver, a couple running backs that could start for every team and a good offensive line. And we're like, just not. It's almost like the quarterback's really important in the NFL.
Almost like it's the most important position in sports, they say.
I think it is. So I think that hindered me too. I'm also going under. But I do think they're going to give some teams some issues. And I've mentioned that term, bad team beater. I think they overwhelm some teams with their line and their defense. It's just, I think there's a lot of class in the AFC. There's 5 teams. I can almost go I'm pretty locked in as playoff teams. Yeah, I think when you face those types of teams, they just can't keep up with those horses. So I'm also going under. All right, final prediction.
But you've compared them to the 2022 Falcons as like a bad, that's the type of team that could be kind of a tough out, like a bit of a weird team that, yet again, Nate Tice is like, hey, they're doing some fun stuff. Like, look at these clips I have, but they're not winning any games. And I'm not making fun of you. That's obviously your.
I'm trying to temper myself. I want to go over, trust me, but I'm like, no, I'm being a realist here.
But again, that Falcons team, they were 7-10 that year in 2022, and they picked Bijan Robinson 8th in the draft the next year. So again,
you're just being realistic that even though I'm high on the team, that they only won 7 games and a top 10.
Well, I'm just saying, they can be a fun team and interesting and also be bad.
Fun does not equal. I'm trying to do the sign here on the YouTube show, but fun does not equal good. And sometimes
correct.
You have to remind yourself when you watch a prospect, and sometimes you have to remind yourself when you watch a team that fun does not always mean good. And it's not disco stew and the chart's going to go off the scale and just maximize forever. All right. But yeah, thank you for bringing up the 2022 Falcons, and just never bring up the 2023 Falcons. Desmond Ritter's on the Bengals right now, by the way. I made sure to check that out. Final division preview, AFC East 2025. Who are you going with, Matt? I think this was pretty obvious.
Yeah, I only took over on one team's win total. That would be the Buffalo Bills.
I'm also going with the Buffalo Bills, pretty much. As long as Josh Allen's healthy, it's their division to lose. I think that's pretty easy way to go about it. But closing it out today, thank you, Matt, for joining me. Ton of fun doing these preview shows. We got week 0 of college football this weekend, starting out in Dublin. It's gonna be great. I got Kansas. My uncle coaches for Kansas. They're playing this weekend. I'm like, oh shoot! I'm texting my uncle. He's like, it's game week. Why are you texting me? It's like, oh, sorry, it's camp still for me. But we're closing it out today. Again, we're gonna be back at the Venetian in Las Vegas on Friday with a show. I'm Nate Tice. You can find me at Nate_Tice on social media. That is Matt Harmon. You can find him at Matt Harmon_BYB or Matt Harmon on social media. Subscribe to us, follow us, rate us. Got some great stuff coming out. Also, check out the Yahoo Sports Network, our brand new streaming TV channel. The Yahoo Sports Network is available to stream on leading FAST services. It's also streaming live 24/7 on yahoosports.tv, where you can catch all of those shows on your phone or on your browser. So make sure to check that out. Check out our shows at Venetian this weekend. Again, Friday and Saturday, 5 to 7 p.m. Thanks to Stone, Madison, and Ingrid behind the scenes for making us look and sound good. Thank you all for listening. See you guys next time.